Now that we have our beginning area sorted, we need to ensure that our character can actually get into the main area of the game, okay, which is along this path, and that the character can't go anywhere where you don't want him to. So we're actually going to use these red blocks in order to stop the character from going anywhere where we don't want them to. These red blocks are only visible in the scene editor. As soon as you press play on the game, they actually they disappear. They don't render their textures, but the colliders are still there. So the colliders stop your character from going where you don't want them to. So I want the character to be able to come down past this lighthouse into the main level. So I just want to click this and delete it. And there's also a rock there as well, just so there's a little sort of pathway for the character to come into. Now it does mean that I need to do a little bit of work with the terrain to build it up, so let's just click on the terrain, let's go to the paintbrush, and we want to raise or lower the terrain. That's a little bit too big, so I'm going to reduce my brush size down to about there. That's good. My opacity, I'm going to reduce the opacity down to about 18. So any higher and your terrain's just going to shoot up way too quickly. It becomes unmanageable. So at this level I can just click and drag, and I'm getting it nicely coming up, okay, where I need it to. And I'm going to create a sort of a path for my character to walk along. Just going to change my angle so that I can see it a little better. Okay, good. Now if let's say this hump right here is a little bit too big, what we can do is obviously click back on the paintbrush and just hold shift to actually reduce it back down again. And bear in mind, all of the trees and the grass do change along with the terrain. So if you higher the terrain, the trees and the grass follow along with it. Okay, that's relatively good. May just lower this a little bit. And if at any point you feel that it's a little bit too sharp, you do get this smooth height setting, where if you have this, you click and drag and it actually smooths everything out, so that if you're getting too many jagged edges, this will actually help you to make it look nicer. Okay, so now I've got a path for my character to go along. It also has a little bit of grass on it as well. Well, in some parts it does, in some parts it doesn't. That's fine. If you do want to paint any grass, it's just under this section, paint details, and here are all the grass textures. You click on one, let's say this one. I'm going to reduce my brush size down a little bit, and from there, well, maybe not that one. The opacity is probably a little bit too low. Oh, okay, there we go, we got one. Now this is something to do with the settings for this grass. Let's try and find one that will. There we go. Now we're getting some pieces of grass showing up slowly. So if you did, for example, want to paint grass, while we've got this selected, we can edit the details of this, and we can edit, okay, and obviously we can change the size of it, the width, the noise spread, the color of the grass, the render mode, don't change that, and potentially the target strength. I'm going to increase the opacity. Let's see what happens here. So we're getting little bits of grass showing up. Target strength. That appears to be a little bit better when I increase the target strength. Not necessarily showing up exactly where I want it, but experiment and see what you can do. Okay, so we've created a path for our character to now get into our main scene.